Paul Matthew Minister here. And I know I always tell you guys, that, sorry, I don't feel good again. I never do. Like I said, I had a stroke, and it really sucks trying to remember things sometimes. But I'm just laying here in bed late at night, and here in upstate New York, and I got thinking about time travel again. Oh, goodness, sorry. And, I know I said I'm a paranormal expert. I don't really know the reality of what it takes to make an expert. I mean, if there's guys that know more than me out there, then there are, but I certainly know more than the majority of people do. So, if I don't call myself an expert, what am I going to call myself, right? But I really do know a lot about a lot. It's been a long time since I started studying this stuff when I was a kid. And now I'm 56, almost 57. But anyway, one of my hobbies on the side was, I've got a whole list of things, unbelievable amount of things that I've studied and done and worked with, and like building computers and self-defense, MMA fighting, amateur, not professional. I never wanted to get, put it this way, I really don't want to be beaten up really bad in a ring. So I would just learn how to defend myself. When we were in class, I call it mixed martial arts. It's MMA fighting. It's not cage match fighting, but it's however we learned to defend ourselves. We learned, so if we liked something from Kung Fu, we took that. If we like something, techniques and moves from karate, we took that. So, I can't stop yawning. Terrible. These sleeping pills I take, I put a thing up about time travel, and I got thinking, I didn't really cover everything. I didn't even cover everything that I wanted to cover. So I guess we'll call this time travel number 2. Now, first of all, if I knew how to do this 100% sure, I sure as hell wouldn't tell anybody. So I'm not going to tell you that I know 100% how to do this. The problem that I have with, I can't stop yawning. It's after midnight. A problem that I have with time travel is people don't understand. When you build a time machine, chances are it either only goes forward in time or it only goes backwards. The odds of getting a time machine that you're going to build that's going to do both is pretty daunting. You know what I mean? It's a stupid idea. It's a terrible idea. And the movies got me into this. Oh, but now I know how to go ahead in time. I'm pretty sure I can build a machine that does it. I've known about this for a very long time. The way I came across the technology is through angelic technology, through angels. And I've heard a lot of people talk about it and a lot of different things to do with Einstein and his theory of relativity and Stephen Hawking and all that stuff. Before we had internet, we had the library. The reality of it is, nobody goes to the library anymore, right? I could go on and on and on. The devil likes to do it to me, I think. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about building a time machine that goes forward. I really don't want to do that this time. I'm not that interested in going forward in time, although it's the easiest machine to make. It really is. I have people to laugh at me and want to sit there and say, oh, well, I have a PhD in physics and I'm one of the smartest men in the world, and you know how to, go ahead in time and I don't. Oh, you're a liar. You're nuts. You're crazy. Let me tell you something. I really don't care what you think of me, because the bottom line on the whole thing is is time travel. What they say, when you go to make a deal with the devil, don't. And the fact that I'm a minister, I can vouch for that and say that that's true. So what I really want to say to everybody, if I can stop yawning, this is ridiculous. What I really want to say is this. The idea of building a time machine, you just don't do it. It's the same thing like with the devil. Just don't do it. Don't attempt to do it. Don't try to do it. But anyway, we are going to go over some things. And I sure as hell am not going to tell you how to do this. I don't know how to go backwards in time, but I have some really great ideas. I have some really great ideas on how to do it, and I'm not going to share everything with you. I don't think anyone's done it, and the reason why I think all these people, like Andrew Alargo and all, what's his name? There I go again. It's just not going to stop. I get these weird things to overcome me at night when I can't stop yawning. It's some kind of sick, perverted thing. I have problems sleeping. Sometimes I go 2-3 days in a row without sleeping. But anyway, let's talk about things that most people don't talk about. That's what makes my stuff different than anybody else's. Now, you can take a look at this page right here. Forward time travel, backwards time travel, solving the paradoxes. And I've read all this type of stuff before. Long time ago. Quite a long time ago. We're probably talking, oh my goodness, I wanted to do this like 18 years ago, 20 years ago, somewhere around there. But anyway, let's roll with the basics. I'm certainly not going to give you, I'm not going to give anybody what they want. What would be in it for me to tell you to go back, teach you how to go back and steal the Hope Diamond? You know what I mean? What's in it for me? I'm poor. I need to eat. I need to pay bills. I need to live. So before you go and judge me and say this guy is all about money, you bet your butt I am. You bet your butt I am. Because I've been poor all my life, and I don't deserve it. I don't deserve it. It's not right. Because I've been poor, do you know how many times I couldn't get a woman? Because I didn't have a good enough job that I would get a woman that wouldn't want a guy that didn't make, 6 figures. A 6-figure income, and I have to be single almost my entire life, and I'm still there. Still single. I can tell you, the way to keep your youth is to jump through one of these machines. And there's ways where you will be younger. And if you took a look at me and you were to really realize how old I really am, and you look at me, you would absolutely not believe it. You would not believe how young I look. I don't go around telling people usually, yeah, I jumped through a friend's time machine, and I did it several times, and now I'm younger. Who's going to believe me? No one's going to believe me. So I'm not even going to say I did it. But if you take a look at me, and you realize that I'm almost 57 years old, and you take a look how I pretty much don't have one wrinkle on my face. There's reasons for that. Let's just say Mike Markham really knew what he was doing. He knew what he was talking about. And he's not the only one that has that knowledge in his head. Because I certainly knew about it long before Madman came along. I'm older than him, probably by quite a bit. So no, I am a technology thief. What does that mean? That means I go to books. I talk to people. I go to the internet. Here goes another one. Oh, how embarrassing. That's a beauty. Ugh, rebuke you, Satan, in the name of Jesus Christ. I swear, it's just like when I sit down to do these things, it's like there's a evil force against me. I got attacked once by an evil spirit when I was going to put this stuff on the internet, and I got poked in the eye by an invisible spirit, a demon, a devil, if you will. Wham, right in the eye. So, well, yeah, because I was going to spill some secrets, spill some satanic secrets, let them out into the world that other people don't know, which I finally managed to spill. We'll see if I get attacked if I do it right now. I'll say it right now. Gray aliens are not really aliens. They're unclean spirits. They're demons. They are disembodied spirits that can have a body because they're disembodied from a cherub angel, and they can form out. They can be invisible. They can form into a gaseous state. They can also use hyperspace to travel. Hey, look, I didn't get attacked. That means they're not listening. All right, there you go. There's one of your big secrets. One of my big secrets, or, well, the secrets of the devil. He doesn't want the world to know he exists. And I just let the cat out of the bag somewhat along those lines in a different way. But anyway, let's go back to what I was talking about. I absolutely cannot stand the thought of a bunch of people having a time machine. I don't even want to tell you the shape of this thing. I was almost going to tell you the shape of this damn thing. It's going to be one of those things that if you were to build one, you would hate it. You would really hate it. Now, if you build one that goes forward, the ones that I know how to build, it's not so bad. You come out looking younger. 3 or 4 years go by. You literally are in suspended animation, and time catches up with you. So when you pop back out of the other side of this thing, miles away, you will be surprised that it's 3 or 4 years later and you don't look, you're maybe 25, 35 minutes older. You know what I mean? By the time you pick yourself up off the side of the road and, you realize, hey, what just happened to me? I'm having problems remembering things. And by the way, when you jump through one of these things, you will have the worst ringing in your ear that you have ever had in your life. And I was dumb enough to go through one of these machines without earplugs. Yeah. So I ruined my hearing on my left ear bad. But, well, no one can fix it. All right, let's go back to talking about... I'm so much more interested in going back into the past than I am the future. I'm not really that interested in keep making these jumps. But I have the body of a 30-year-old man. You can actually look, if you were to see me without clothes on. And my girlfriends, I have 4 girlfriends, they'll vouch for that I do have the body of a 30-year-old. And I'm almost 57. You take a look at my body, you'll say that ain't no body of an old man. My face isn't either. But anyway, all I could say is, all right, I'm gonna go off that topic because I really don't want everybody doing this. So that's the lesser time machine that does damage, what I'm talking about, and it's a lot cheaper to build than the other one. I want to talk about the other one. I don't want to talk about the the one that makes you younger. I mean, that it doesn't make you younger. It holds you in suspended animation, and time catches up to you, but yet you're just as young as when you jumped in it. So for all those physicists that know anything about Einstein's theory of relativity, you'll know that that does not break the laws of physics. And my answer to anybody that says that anything breaks the laws of physics, your laws of physics are wrong, and you don't know the laws of physics. You don't know them all. Because nothing breaks the laws of physics, no matter what you think, no matter what you say, no matter what you think, no matter what you hear. No matter what you say, you just... I'm so sick of hearing that. You know, flying saucers break the laws of physics because they can do sharp right angle turns, and there should be hundreds of G-forces on the body. Well, I'm also an expert. I'm an expert in the paranormal, and I'm pretty darn much an expert on, we'll call them flying saucers, if you will. UAPs, flying saucers. They've been called many different names throughout time. Fire chariots, burning shields, orbs. But anyway, a lot of technology that angels have, they're the ones that made me believe. They didn't teach me directly, but indirectly they pretty much taught me that, yeah, you can go back in time. They go back in time and they save other groups of angels and people that are out in the universe that have already been destroyed by war from other fallen angels. They go back and they save them. Pretty interesting, huh? Pretty wild. Maybe that's why they're too busy to come down and help us and heal us. Flying saucer is angel technology. Yes, the good ones and the bad ones have it. But trust me, you don't want to go near the bad ones. The bad ones come here. They're the ones that are abducting people. They're the ones that are taking people. They are responsible for the alien abductions. They are your culprit. There's different breeds of them, different types. The Greys, the Nordics. Even I used to think the giant praying mantis thing was absolutely ridiculous. Until somebody in the government confirmed to me that that was real. It was true. I said, well, any 6 foot tall, 5 or 6 foot tall praying mantis is not going to really be a praying mantis now, is it? It's going to be probably it's some sort of construct through DNA. And I don't really think super advanced robots exist anymore. I think they're more like an android, what does exist out there. And when people say, how do you know all this stuff exists? And, you know, and I just laugh because the Bible tells us that. There's only one Bible, by the way. Only one. The rest of them are forgeries. They're fakes. The King James Bible is the only Bible that exists, if you know, if you catch my drift. So anyway, the Bible tells us that there's nothing new under the sun. That's how I know what I know. That's one reason how one way that I know what I know. That's why I know when you think you're going to, when I read something that some scientist teleported, I laugh my ass off, So, scientists teleported the first atom, from point A to point B. And I'm like, no, they didn't. I know for a fact they didn't. Our government did that stuff back in the 50s. Absolutely ridiculous. And the naiveness and the gullibility of the scientific community never ceases to amaze me. I just laugh and laugh and laugh when scientists talk about we're gonna build a spaceship that can go to Mars. Well, that's already been done. We're going to build a base on the other side of the moon. Well, that's already been done. This stuff has been done thousands and thousands of years ago. How can I prove it to you? All right, let me give it a try. When you take a look at the pictures of the moon, and you take a look at the pictures of Mars, if you can get the right ones out of the archives, the NASA archives, you're going to find out that you absolutely can see where there's unbelievably ancient buildings that are there. Lots of them. So that's where angels and humans used to exist. The angels were there millions of years ago. Humans were there probably thousands of years ago. But I don't know how long humans have been here. The Bible says 7,000 years. And all the scientists laugh about that. Well, since the Bible is the Bible, King James, is never wrong, version is never wrong, it must mean something else. Maybe it means recorded history. Could it be 7 million years? I think the idea that dinosaurs lived for 140 million years, or what is it, 140 million years ago, and they were alive for 70 million years or 1,000. It's just the most ridiculous garbage ever. I have personal knowledge directly from God, verbally, that all the animals were created on the same day. So if you want to believe me, fine. If you don't, I really don't care. Because a lot of people like me, we're into higher things. We go higher than science. We go into angelic realms. We access angelic realms. We access spiritual realms. So that's how we know. There's not a lot of us, but a few of us know what we know. And the scientists are just left there to stew in their own crap. And what I mean by that is, anybody that's dumb enough to believe, well, there was a large rock there, the size of a pond or a small lake, and then a bolt of lightning came down, but there were amoebas and things that were already there, and then the lightning hit the amoebas, and then all of a sudden something crawls out with 6 legs or 4 legs or whatever the heck it is onto the land, and then over millions of years evolves in some amazing unknown way with some unknown ability. No one's ever seen it anyway because it takes so long. And then all of a sudden you've got a monkey, and then all of a sudden you've got a Neanderthal or Heidelbergensis, and then all of a sudden, you've got Gigantopithecus even maybe, that branched off, Bigfoot, and then all of a sudden you have humans. Well, if that's true, then why are there still apes and monkeys? Why? There's not much difference between apes and monkeys, really. I mean, it's a humanoid form. So anyway, you see, if you're willing and you're gullible to believe garbage like that, how many other books are wrong? But anyway, the theories I came up with, and I'm not sure if other people came up with these things or not, because I don't waste my time on time travel and theory anymore. Although I've gotten so much farther than I ever thought I ever would with time travel. I just never would have believed. My first time machine was on a piece of paper, and it probably wouldn't have worked. I was 16 years old at the time. 15 or 16. Or was I, wait a minute, 16, 17? No, I think I was 17. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The first one to accelerate myself at the speed of light without any G-forces. I couldn't figure out how to do that. I thought about it for a long time. So I said, well, wait a minute. I'm going to get all these books from the library on time travel and theories on Einstein, relativity, a Rosen bridge. So I got sidetracked by ufology. And I learned I have the knowledge on how to build a flying saucer. Yeah, I think I can do it. I absolutely do. And that was interesting because if I could design something on paper, then I probably could design it in reality. Just because it's on paper doesn't mean that it won't work. It certainly doesn't mean that. If I draw a gear set on paper, don't you think someone could go build it from those plans? Yeah, most likely. That's how things work. It's called the drawing board. So anyway, I thought about this. If there's any way to time travel, it would be with flying saucer technology. First, I had to learn, or I did learn, how do they get from point A to point B? This was something that I had thought about for a long time. And I read everything I could in books, which wasn't a lot. I read all the anti-gravity books I could find. I certainly owned a lot of them on PDFs. And my first inkling of how this type of thing was done was when I found out that the Nazis had gotten a hold of this technology and they knew how to make independent gravity. I took a guess. My best guess was looking at some papers that came from World War II, looking at some schematics on how these what are they called again? Hanabus worked, as a German word, flying saucer. And then after I figured out a lot of how it worked, which is mostly you want to know how it works, the power, how does it lift off the ground? What's the power system? The problem, if you know anything about anything mechanical, the problem is that most things are not able to fly because they can't lift their own power system and engine. They can't lift their, they can't carry their own battery. And that was the problem we had with RC stuff. They didn't make drones. For a long time, there was no such thing as drones. We didn't have drones back in the 70s, in 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I don't even remember having we sort of had toy drones in the 80s, that's true. The early 80s, but then I realized that the problem was the batteries were so heavy that the thing didn't want to lift them, and the engine was so heavy, it just, the fans, it would lift up off the ground a little ways, and then it would want to fall back down to the ground, and it was just too heavy of an apparatus for the amount of horsepower that you put in. And that problem was solved by extraterrestrials. They were able to solve it with, how shall I put this without giving the secrets out? They were able to make their spacecraft levitate as a planet levitates under the same conditions and under the same principles. So they're replicating planets. That's what they're doing. So it stood to reason, not only did I figure out how to get one of these things in the air, but then I also thought, well, wait a minute. We have a whole bunch of problems or challenges to overcome. One of the first challenges was this. Are we going to have a time machine that we bring with us? Are we going to have something? You can't just make a time machine you step through, because then you're stranded on the other side. You're stranded. How are you going to get back? I'm not sure you could get it to, well, I mean, you could automatically have it open up maybe and take you back, but I don't prefer to do it that way. I kept thinking, what are the laws of the universe? What does God limit? What does he not limit? The Bible also said the second thing, and that was the important thing, was that mankind would be able to do almost anything if they were not eventually stopped by God. God stops mankind in its tracks. God judges mankind, and he rules over mankind for 1,000 years. And that's coming. It's not far off. So, if you make a spacecraft and you go fly to, I don't know why you'd want to, go fly to Pluto. It's nothing new. Our government does that. You get all these physicists that think, they're in the top of the food chain and with technology, and they're really not the ones that we know of anyway, not by any stretch. If you want to go somewhere, we're going to traverse. That's right. If we want to go from point A to point B, we have a source and a destination. We're leaving our source planet and we're going to our destination planet. I understand how to do that. But I want to go back to a different time. So I want to take it out into space, and when I jump back, these are jumps, that hyperspace jumps that we do. I call them jumps because we can't usually maintain that amount of voltage when we discharge our capacitor. We're going to jump. We're going to go real far. Well, the problem is when we come back, I want to jump into a different time. I don't want to jump into the same time. Well, that would be quite an accomplishment right there. The government's never going to let you do it. They took away the OTC X1 from Otis T. Carr. And I learned about, I've studied everything I could study about that. He's the one that came the closest to building a time machine. But there's problems with what was released. And I knew immediately, or very quickly, that these are incomplete plans. They're not going to work. There's no controller. Everybody that gets that stupid patent for the amusement device, and then that's real garbage, to be honest with you, because the stupid thing is grounded in the earth. That's the dumbest idea I've ever seen. But anyway, they managed to rework it, and the second one came out, and you can actually see the OTC X1, the modern version, and it's probably made in the 50s, this design. And I saw right away, there's no controller. There's no controller in this thing. So then immediately, if you know anything about engineering like I do, I'm self-taught, you want to immediately say, what's the power system? Anybody can make anything that looks like a flying saucer. But what's the power system? Well, the power system for the real ones that are made by, I don't like to call them extraterrestrials because they're angels. But anyway, we'll call them extraterrestrials, so hold your interest. They take radiation. What are the name of, I can never remember this. The generators that convert radio or radiation into electricity. That's how they power these spacecrafts, and they use crystals. They use a lot of copper. Some of them use real advanced computers, like mini quantum computers on board, to make a calculation of somewhat of where you want to go next. Because as soon as you make one jump, you can be lost. So some of these things are controlled by your mind. Some of these flying saucers, remember, they traverse. They don't fly. I don't want to use the word fly. So the problem that I came up with was, if I'm going to hit the throttle and do a jump, like Star Wars, punch it, Chewie, or, warp 11, Scotty, whatever they did for light speed. No, that's actually 11 times the speed of light on Star Trek, warp 11. But anyway, we're not going faster than the speed of light, in the sense that we're trying to drag race light and get past it. That would be a very, 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 very slow way of getting around the universe. It's so immense. So what we're going to do, or what has been done, and I don't know if I'm ever going to have the money to do this, and I'm not sure I even want to. Not sure I want to show anyone else how to do it. But anyway, if we manually make our first jump, we'll be thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away. Yeah. So then the problem becomes star charts and mapping and having a telescope on board, and one for redundancy, and having to figure out where we are. Where are we now? So that was a big problem. I didn't think if you aimed your spacecraft at a planet, and we can't go there with a solid vehicle at that speed. And NASA makes that mistake. Lockheed Martin does not. But anyway, what they do is they're able to call down hyperspace around the craft, and they're able to actually go through planets. You could go through solid matter. I call it a ghost ship. Well, you don't want asteroids smashing into you and space debris and other spacecrafts. You may not know this, but there's other spacecrafts out in space. Sometimes it takes hours to look through the telescopes and wait for the flying saucers to go by so you can see other planets. Yeah. This is an absolute fact. I trust the sources. The Vatican, they're the ones that are interested so much in the Antichrist coming from outer space. The Vatican, they're evil. You can't trust them. They're deceitful. And they are not your friend. And they are not going to lead you to heaven. They really have much to do with the opposite, which is hell. But anyway, they got this deal where they want to baptize an alien. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Leave it to that to come out of the Catholic Church. The people are good. The church is vulgar and disgusting. They grieve the Lord. They grieve the Holy Spirit by worshiping and praying to Mary. They'll lie and say they don't, some of them. A lot of Catholics do admit to me that they do pray to Mary. Mary is not God. Mary is a creation. Jesus is not a creation other than when he was here with his human body. So you're talking about things that go on in the world that you probably don't have a lot of knowledge of and the way things work. But anyway, they've got this system going where they're able to have the best equipment you can, or pretty good. And they're able to look out into space really far. And they do see these flying saucers going back and forth. Because that's how angels battle. That's how angels travel back and forth. So they have to wait for this thing to clear. Like, there's so many ships out there. And I mean, I have a video myself of a whole bunch of these ships that are in hyperspace. These spacecrafts can take a tremendous amount of G-forces on them. I'm not going to tell you how it's done. I don't really want to see you build something and then for whatever reason the battery dies and then you go splat against the wall of the ship. So I really don't want to tell you trade secrets. But anyway, I was losing my train of thought. What was I talking about now? So you hit the throttle on this time machine / spacecraft, whatever. And the problem I came up with, how are you going to get, to orbit the planet or even get close to it without smashing into it? Well, the answer partly was we're using hyperspace to go from point A to point B, and we will be absolutely able to pass our hand through solid matter once we're in the craft, and we have our own natural gravity that holds us there. It's like with the Earth. The inside of the Earth spins one way, the outer crust spins the other way, and that's how we have gravity. There are ways to do it artificially. It takes a lot of electricity. It takes certain frequencies and things that I'm not going to divulge. I'm not going to divulge what frequency anti-gravity is. It's very hard to discover that secret. Took me a long time to find it. It's actually in the Bible. Yes, anti-gravity is in the Bible. It really is. But anyway, I'm not going to really... I guess I could go ahead and tell you it's in Ezekiel. So go have fun and go find it. But anyway, I don't want people building these things because, a lot of people get hurt and a lot of people get killed. My problem was, as I was going to say, if you build a time machine, you go back to, let's say, the 1980s. Do you become that person from the 80s? Are you that person again? Your soul and your spirit go back? Or do you go back and then there's another you, a younger you there, and you meet yourself? That's another possibility that a lot of scientists don't talk about, is what I said the first time, is that you would actually become yourself again. That kind of stick you in a loop, though. I don't know. Now, what about the flying saucer or the time machine? What about the time machine you build? The materials for your saucer, were up in the mountains somewhere. The steel that they had to get from where they got it, mining it. Would the time machine go back to being in the earth again? What the materials were. So then if you go back to the 60s or 50s, now you're kind of stuck. Because what if your time machine disappears? It's gone. It deposits you there and it's gone. It's gone because it was not a time machine back then. It wasn't. So does that mean now you have to build another one to get back with the materials that are available in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s? So that is another thing to consider. Two things to consider. A lot of people that write information on time machines don't consider. So consider those two things. So what if you meet yourself? If your mother or father died, and you go back and you want to see them, you're going to want to go to the door. If you knock on the door, you're probably going to meet yourself. If you were living at home at the time. What are you going to do? You're going to have to show them your teeth. You would absolutely have to show your parents your teeth and match them with your younger self to show, hey, look, this is just me, the older version of me. I mean, I think your parents would be able to tell. I mean, they did that in a Twilight Zone episode, but I remember I wasn't even born when that was on. It was like 1963 or 4 or something. But anyway, or 62, I think. So you've got a lot of problems. I mean, I don't think you want to go back and kill yourself. If you killed yourself, wouldn't you then die yourself? Excuse me. You got a lot of problems. If you want to go back in time, I wanted to go back and I wanted to send myself the lottery numbers. You know, you could send a time machine back to yourself. Another third idea that I had. And you don't have to be in it to send it back. No, you send yourself a note. You send yourself a note. There's a way to do it. A lot of this stuff works on mind control. But I don't even have a machine shop to do this stuff. To test this stuff. I'm not sure how far the thing is going to make a jump. I don't want to go off the planet. It'd be out in space. I have to have tubes, tanks. Tanks of air, I mean. Tanks of air. All this stuff is just not going to go like Doctor Who. Not like these time travel shows and movies. Time travel to the future is not going to be done in big jumps. It's going to be done in small jumps. That's the way it works. To do a bigger jump, you need a lot more electricity. And I wouldn't even try it. Because you're going to need a lot of voltage to do it anyway. I think the way around the voltage problem is going to be to use special equipment. It's not gonna work with regular equipment that you buy down at the old Radio Shack. Now, you are creating a wormhole when you're in a flying saucer. You're bringing the wormhole with you. That's why so many people I always laughed, and they would always say, yeah, well, I know a lot about flying saucers, and I doubt you do, and, blah, blah, blah. And my first question is, why is a flying saucer round? And then you hear silence, You ask a physicist, scientist, why is it round? You can't even tell me why it's round. It's round. I mean, I don't tell a lot of secrets on this, but I'll let you know why. It's round so it can fit through its own wormhole. Wormholes are round. They really are. I've never seen a square one. I've never seen a oval one, and etc. This thing about... I was going to talk about Einstein's equation. It says allows for closed timeline curves, CTCs, which are loops in space-time caused by intense gravity. Well, the machine that was built by Otis T. Carr, I'm not really sure how intense the gravity has to be, because you can do it with high frequency, high voltage, instead of doing 10 million watts. And how far are you going to jump on that 10 million watts? You're talking about an incredible amount of electricity to discharge. It says, like a spinning black hole or massive cosmic string that theoretically allow a traveler to return to a starting point in time? Well, first of all, angels, if they can do it, we can do it. Now, I know you've probably seen Art Bell and all the shows on time travel, right? I mean, or listened to them all. I've been into this for quite a long time. But the grandfather paradox is weird. I mean, why would you... I hope nobody would literally do that one, so I'm not even going to go there. Now, the multiverse is the fear that I had. I have a very big fear of the multiverse, because if you want to go back and see your mother in time because she died, and she's either in heaven or hell, depending on whether she accepted Jesus Christ, who's God, as Savior, then how could she be back in the past? Now, I used to think that your life was laid out like a film strip, a really long film strip. And could you take yourself out of the point you're at now and go back, say, to the left, which is going back in time, and each little photo, the film is an earlier time, obviously, for your life or for a movie. And could you just reinsert yourself back into a time where you want to be? Now, if that's possible, then the Bible is certainly right that there's no limit to what mankind can do. The best way for mankind to get farther than they are is not to build off your technology, but to build off or acquire somebody else's that is way more advanced than you. Just like in the movies, alien technology. Well, they've already done that. What do you think Roswell was? How do I know Roswell was real? I know Roswell was real, and I'm one of the only people that knows what happened there. Yeah, I knew exactly what it was. I knew exactly what the beings were and all that. They are absolutely, what crashed there are fallen angels. And yes, they can die, they can be killed, and they are in our dimension. They can move in between other dimensions and ours or hyperspace somewhat, but they can't go to heaven and come here, because the Bible tells us, God tells us. When I say the Bible, I usually mean God's word, either inspired by God or directly quoted from God, is that flesh and blood cannot enter the kingdom. So you're not going to build this thing and go to heaven. I've read stories where aliens can go to heaven and Jesus comes out and talks to them and all this nonsense. I don't believe that. But anyway, there's nothing that I know of for sure that prevents time travel. But I will time travel to the past. But I have to say that I would think that a lot of gold would disappear from Fort Knox if somebody built a time machine. And the day it was put there, it would probably be gone instantaneously. Now, these devices use hyperspace, and the people that build hyperspace machines usually end up dead. And there's quite a few of them out there. Take a look at the scientists, read their names, anti-gravity researchers like me. You're going to find out that most of them have been murdered. That's because There are agencies like EG&G that are working very hard to keep this technology a secret. So yeah, I would say after studying Bob Lazar since I was 17 or 18, I can tell you it's a true story. It is an absolute true story. I don't know if he's made up some lies to put in there too, because nobody could find a MIT graduation picture of him, which I don't really see. The only way you could erase it is to go back in time. So I don't know. Why don't they just kill the guy, right? How come he didn't die? How come I didn't die? Well, I know why I didn't die. Because I have the Holy Spirit that protects me. The Holy Spirit's protected me from people trying to kill me before. So there's certain people that have spirits that watch over them, good spirits. Holy Spirit is the Spirit of God. But anyway, back to the time travel stuff. There's a theory that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. And I think that's kind of weird. They say it's a fourth spatial dimension. Well, that's like saying that you'd be alive and dead at the same time. That theory they used to say about the dead cat. I love cats, so I don't go there. But you're dead and alive at the same time. I think that's kind of weird and ridiculous, and I don't really know why you would necessarily believe that. It really depends how you look at things. After you die, your energy always goes on. It's never destroyed. But you go to heaven or you go to hell. Why? Because God is the dictator of where you go. He is the one that puts your spirit and your soul where you go. Scientists still don't understand the reason why people get old and the universe decays. That is because God put a time limit on everything and a curse on everything through the fall of mankind, and we live in a fallen world. As a minister and an amateur scientist, I can explain it. I can explain it fairly well. But they don't. They've got this thing with CERN, C-E-R-N, Switzerland, where they're trying to open up a portal. They say they don't know why. Well, the answer to that is Satan. Satan is the answer. I don't like to say Satan's name too loud. You don't have to say his name for him to come calling. But anyway, I know for a fact that there's going to be that CERN. It's a portal. It's a portal. I know how portals work. I can build a portal. I know about building portals. I know about other people that have. And that is absolutely a portal. This God particle thing, I don't really understand what they're going to do with it if they do find it. I'm not sure it even exists. But anyway, all these ideas that seem so romantic that you're going to get into a... I don't even want to tell you the shape of this thing. You're going to get into a device and you think you're going to just make it work. And you're going to ride off into the sunset like the big hero and come back with Einstein. Or you're going to go give Einstein his own work when he was, 20 or 30 years before he got old. I really don't think that's going to happen. My idea was to send technology back to the past in radio waves. And I wanted to do that to advance our technology, and especially when it comes to medical technology. And I could think of some ways to do it. I don't have any money. I don't know of anybody that's willing to fund my ideas, and I need a team. And DARPA is already working on a lot of this stuff, supposedly. And supposedly, like John Tudor and all these people that claim... Well, they all disappeared, so maybe they are telling the truth. Obama was supposed to have been in the jump room the CIA has, and they're able to jump to Mars. Now that's possible, I think. I'm not 100% sure how to jump to another planet because I mean I could build a a machine or a spacecraft that goes there. It goes there really fast, but I don't really know how to build a time machine for sure that could throw you there, and then you'd have to have another doorway to get back through. They say they already have it there. They've already built it. They've already taken it there and built it. So you could build a doorway here and a doorway there, but you got to go there first. You got to go there with stuff first, I think. I think it's a one-way trip. Sounds horrible. I don't even want to talk about it. Mars does not seem like an ideal place to colonize at all, and anyone that tells you it is a liar. Now, the Kepler planets, the ones with trees and water and salt and all the things we need, it takes a mind, the mind of God, to have the building blocks to build life. And the planets have to be a certain distance from the sun because of how cold it is in space. The atmosphere has to be right because space is a vacuum. But these Kepler planets, if we're able to master frequency, we'll be able to make that jump. We'll be able to make that jump. If we could master the frequencies of the universe, we could make ourselves all young again. You could build a machine that you could walk through, and you could be young again. I've thought of that for quite an amount of time, and I don't have the money to get started on this stuff. My health isn't good. I would really like, I sort of wanted to work for DARPA, but everything that I would ever give them, they would turn it into a weapon. That's their problem. That's DARPA's problem all the time. The first thing you do, if you were to build a time machine, it really worked, is you'd go back just before they built it and you'd kill everybody in the room because it's one of the most horrible weapons that ever could be. What was that thing that guy said when they had a stupid craft they designed that wouldn't stop rolling, and I could design one that doesn't roll? Kept rolling in the beginning of the $6 Million Man. Somebody said, oh, we had to use a time window and turn it back and go get that guy and save him from crashing. Well, I do think that's possible, but I don't know. Did they do that in the 60s? I mean, did they have the technology to do it then? You will not have enough power, probably, to make a time machine that can change everything in the past. I don't think you can, or the future. You don't have enough power to do that. But if you want to put a time window over an engine and have it keep running forever because it never runs out of fuel, that's a possibility that I thought of. That would be very useful. An engine that never runs out of fuel because it's in a time loop. The fuel gets halfway down, then all of a sudden it's there again. Halfway down, then it's there again. I'm one of the only people that seems to have ever thought of that or talked about that. So, there you guys go. Now you got one of my good ideas you can steal from me and make money. Just give me royalties if you do. So anyway, wormhole time travel was what I had worked on theoretically. Although wormhole time travel also works to go ahead in the future, which is more of what I've actually been involved with. I have not been involved with anything. Well, I had one incident take place where I was able to go back in time, but the weird thing was I didn't have any instrumentation when it happened. So to this day, it was like I walked into an energy field. It had nothing to do with what I built. And that was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. I've talked to other people that have had that happen, where they're walking through a natural distortion in time, where they're either thrown forward or they're thrown back. I was thrown forward and then put back to the present. But no, I've never gone back into the past. That's the thing I have not accomplished or tried. Going into the future is so much easier. But there's some problems that come along with doing that. Number one, you've got to keep your time machine there, and no one can discover it, because if they dismantle it, by the time you come back from the different places on the earth that the teleporter / time machine brought you to, if it's not there, then you got to build another one to do it again. So you have to keep it well hidden. And these things are not exactly small. The smallest one that I could see somebody building in all reality to just fit yourself through it, if you're really careful at doing this, you could probably get away with, I'm thinking around 15 feet in diameter. There's reasons why it has to be so big. Now, as far as you can bring things ahead in time with you, it's not like the Terminator, where it's the only things with skin will go. Now, if that was the case for the movie, then you would just take like the dead body of a pig, and you'd put a gun in it or something, a small pig, a baby pig. So I mean, that was a stupid flaw in James Cameron's Terminator movies. I think I'm wrong. I think I'm not wrong. You guys can let me know if I'm wrong. But anyway, or just wrap it in animal skin or something with fur, whatever. But anyway, back to this thing. No, you can throw a gun through, or I mean, well, you don't want to throw it through. You want to hold it and jump with it. You could throw it through, but you're going to find it. It'll be hard to find. You have to have a controller if you really want to do this right. And that's one of the hardest things that I've tried to learn about. And I've read about these things. How to make a controller for your time machine. We're talking about different things here. One is a flying saucer, where we make a jump from one plane of space to another. And that's unbelievably dangerous. Unless you use Dead Reckoning, possibly. But it's unbelievable how far away you'll jump. So my suggestion would be your first jump be low frequency, high frequency, high voltage, but just not millions of volts. And in order to generate millions of volts, you're going to have to use capacitors. Now, there's better ones than what Madman Markham used. Mike Markham did not know back then how to build anything that was really good. He was wrong in a sense, because there were plans back then. There were plans to build really, really high capacity capacitors. So he is wrong. I know he said in one of his interviews that there was no way of doing this, and they wouldn't give their secrets out at the power company. Well, no, I don't need to know from the power company. I already know how to build the damn thing. And I'm telling you, you can get a horrible shock too doing this stuff. It's very dangerous. I mean, like a half an amp will kill you. So even a quarter of an amp, milliamps. you don't want to do that. You don't want to mess with that stuff. But you got to be really careful, and you don't overdo it when you're tired. You could build a Faraday cage if you want to be, make sure you don't get electrocuted when you jump through this stupid idea of a thing. If you want to look younger, you want to throw yourself into the future, that's easier to do. But I can tell you one thing. When you go ahead into the future, you might end up finding, somebody that you love died. And there will be no way to go back. There's not going to be any easy way to go back. So be very careful on, That's why I said to Mike, hey, Marco, I said, be careful on what you wish for. Because the government can just take you away, put you in a facility, you'll never be seen alive again. I mean, oh my God, the things that they do to kill people. Companies like DARPA, EG&G. There's places where they can take you. A lot of people understand a lot of people are abducted and they're taken into mountains. They're taken into military bases. They're taken into alien bases. Fallen angel bases. Underground dumb bunkers. Dumb underground military bunkers, Dumbs. So, and that's happened. I could go over the list with you of where to go, but, I wouldn't suggest going there. Some bad things would happen to you if you did. Well, the problem with a time machine was, one of the first problems was if you had one that sits on the ground and you start to transverse in this thing, and you don't do it with hyperspace, you're going to materialize into solid rock or a building or something. So that was one of the big problems. I know there's people that come from the future. That guy that said he had a time machine in a Corvette, like 64 or 5 or 6 or, what is it, 7 Corvette? Yeah. But anyway, I know a lot about cars. That's another hobby. But anyway, I'm not sure that's true. General Electric built that and all that. Although he is right about that. The thing would absolutely have to go. It has to go into hyperspace. The reason why flying saucer lifts off the ground is when they make their jump, they get way clear of any buildings and mountains. And I've seen them do jumps. And they do some incredible jumps. I've had the footage of it. The thing that I put, the OTCX-1 on my website here, you guys will actually see a spacecraft is actually doing jumps. It's doing very small hyperspace jumps. That's what you're looking at when it looks like the craft is expanding and contracting as it's going. It's transversing. But anyway, I'm going to stop this time travel thing. I don't feel very good. And my throat's bothering me. I need a little more pep and energy when I do these videos. I shouldn't do them so late at night. Alright, you guys got any questions for me? DAZ1950 at gmail.com.